Welcome to another edition of the Hidden Agenda. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Got my usual suspect in here, Mr. Blake Mitchell. I mean, yeah. Actually, Blake is some of the meeting recaps we're doing are actually going back to the January 24th meeting at the city. Then we've got a. Let me make sure I get this here right, so I don't want to be out of sync with here. We got the January 24th meeting. And we have the February 9th and the February 23rd, which was just this past Monday. Actually, I'm sorry, that was it's the January 26th is when it was. So what we're going to do is something a little bit different tonight. I want to catch you guys up on a couple things real quick. We're going to do two podcasts tonight, two separate editions of the Hidden Agenda. Dude, tie in, brother. You're in, man. And what it is, the reason we're going to do this is we've got a lot of information to put out, so we're going to take a little break in between us, and this way allow you to take and look at it. Part one is going to be the meeting recaps. We're hoping we can get through this here in about 30 minutes because we're not going to delve into the issues. We're not going to go deep into it. We're just going to kind of brush over and give you how things went with it.
I don't think we can ever do a 30-minute podcast.
Well, we're going to do our best to try. The second one will be a lot more because we're going to go in and dive into these some of the things that's happened in these meetings just to keep you up. Then we're going to bring you up with some of the local political happenings in Henderson County that really kind of play a part. It's something that you really, I think it's vital that you know. Now, Blake's going to be doing a lot of the talking in the first part here because he attended meetings that I did not. I was unavailable to attend. But I've got the agendas pulled up, so I'm going to take and go through here and discuss the things that we need to know. Also, I want you to know, we have a YouTube channel. If you go at the very top of the page, we've pinned that to our featured link. So you'll see that at the top of the page, and you'll also see another link that's got the schedules. Another post that's got the schedules of everybody coming in for podcasts. And I know we've got one that I believe that signed up for the 10th. So I'll be updating that there and keeping that pinned so everybody knows when we're going to have candidates on for Q&A. My phone has been nonstop this week. I'm going to do my best to take and reach out to candidates starting tomorrow to invite them onto the show. Now, also tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, we got Paris Rashad with the Montgomery Cultural Enrichment Center. He's going to be coming on. They're doing an event.
Like a modeling contest or something?
Yeah, it's a modeling show, fashion show. Right. It's called Frost. So it's kind of appropriate. Should have hit this here about a month ago. It'd have been locked on. Probably nobody would have showed up because it couldn't get there. But anyway, Paris is coming on, and I believe he's going to be bringing a couple of the models up there. So he'll be enlightening us on what's happening there. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that there. And something else today. I was on the phone sometime this morning with a commissioner who's actually a firefighter, and they got to respond to a call, and it, normally I don't bring a lot of this stuff here up, but this one here is something I do want to bring up. They went out to the call, and it was a total loss. And I know the family's actually made some posts.
It was bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find the post to it and share that. Or if any of you have a link to that post, if you want to go ahead and make share that post to the page, we will make sure that we get that post shared. It's not going to wait till Member Monday. We're going to go ahead and get that out there because the family's in need. They lost a lot, and I've got a young child. So anything the community can do to help out there. But and I also prayers for their loss and what they're going through. But I also want to just give the deepest gratitude and appreciation for our county firefighters. These guys are volunteers.
Yeah.
They really go above and beyond for what they do. It's not overlooked and it's not taken for granted. Thank you guys for what you do.
100%.
So we want to kind of get in there just to get you some heads up on that stuff there, and we've got like I said, we're going to start with these meeting recaps. Take a break, probably about 5 or 10 minutes at the most, and then come back on and hit it because the next one's going to probably take about an hour.
Right.
So, and instead of having you guys trying to watch one video or trying to find different pieces within the podcast, it'll be easier for you to go with. Right. So anyway, we're going to start with the City of Lexington board meeting from January 26th.
Yeah. And there was a lot on that one that ended up getting pushed.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I'm going to go in here, I'm going to glance over this here. Some of the stuff we're obviously aren't going to be doing much with, but some of it we will be. Discuss, approve application for a beer permit. That's just what it is. Southern Smoke is looking to get a beer license.
Right.
That's normal business.
Yeah.
Filling the vacancy for human resources. Now there was some little bit of confrontation in that.
Not at that meeting, later on, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was at that meeting where
I believe in that one, he just brought up that he was going to try to use their traditional policy of wanting to hire within, and if he could begin that process. And I think they tried to say that they wanted to kind of hold off and see for a second to see, because I believe the one that's leaving right now has accrued quite a bit of time, and so they're going to have to continue to pay that person out and then also pay this one out. But if I'm not mistaken, the CFO, Cody Wood, at that time, or city recorder, was asking, like I said, just to start that process and try to, once again, the main pretty much word he said was we want to continue just to use our traditional methods of hiring from within. Okay. Not the most qualified candidate. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't the key word that was used. It was we need to hire from within. Right. And so at that point, like I said, that was pretty much all that was kind of said at that point.
Now I'm going to beg to differ with you. Me and Blake's going to have. We got some confrontation here.
It's been a little bit since
yeah, I remember. I was not available to make that meeting.
Right. Just so you watched it online.
And I did watch it online. Now, if what I remember from that meeting was there seemed to be a little bit of a power struggle between Mayor Wildridge and City Recorder Wood over who actually has the authority to hire the Human Resources Director.
Oh, I thought that was a later meeting, but you could be right on that.
Yeah,
it was that one.
Yeah, I think that was that January 26th meeting. And I believe on the 9th, it was the utility board meeting. So I think that may have been should have been two different times.
Right.
But anyway, if it wasn't this meeting, it would have been the next meeting.
Right.
So yeah, there was some push and shove between.
Who do they respond to, or who is over them? Is it directly under the mayor, or is it under the city recorder? And that really goes back into, which we'll discuss at a later point, that charter change that happened.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and that was one of the big things that's been brought up at this last meeting. We'll get on that later.
Yeah, we'll get into the next.
But that was one, if I'm not mistaken, too, that Chip Clark, and I, kind of pushed back pretty hard on him. Was saying that no, you city recorder worked for us, worked for the board.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, and as you brought that back up, and wanted to make sure that he understood that regardless if he responded to Gordon directly or if he responded to the city recorder, fell underneath essentially the board,
Right,
as
right.
control somewhat.
Yeah, I remember Chip had quoted some TCA,
Yes.
some Tennessee law on that. That position would actually fall under the mayor.
Right.
I had reached out to him. I'd never heard back to him about getting that information for the TCA because I really wanted to go back in and research it.
Right. And so, we talked about that a little bit. Normally a lot of times the city charter will by and large control what happens. But the way that TCA code is written is if in the event there's something lacking or something like that, TCA will kind of fill it in.
Right.
And so a lot of times people will cite to that, but if there's a city charter that specifies specifically how it's going to happen or what's going to go on, a lot of times that will control because of the way that we're under a private act.
Right.
And
Right.
so, like I said, it fills in the void in the instance there's not something specific for that.
Okay.
Essentially, is what my understanding of it is.
All right, so that was addressed in there. There was the first reading of an ordinance setting dumpster rates. Now, apparently, the city doesn't have dumpsters. They're going to start doing dumpsters.
Yes, for commercial entities. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was 4. If you had, it was either 3 or 4 cans, you could now, like I said, qualify for this dumpster. And I don't believe at that point that they had 100% set the rates on it, if I'm not mistaken. But they had went in and decided that would be better. And from what I've kind of heard from different businesses, they much prefer the dumpster versus
right.
once again having 55 different cans that they got to try to fill up and get to the road somewhere for somebody to pick up.
Right.
And so, like I said, it sounds like it's a pretty successful so far, and this kind of coincided with the we're going to remove the recycle program as well.
Right.
We're going to take away these cans from you and we're going to implement these dumpsters. So
Well, and something I want to kind of touch the base on that for just a minute here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since we're on this, and this won't be coming back up at a later point. Currently, we have apartment complexes
Yes.
that have dumpsters.
yes,
They're getting their dumpsters from somebody else besides
through a
Public
private
Works.
business.
They're getting it through a private, right?
Yes.
And based on that, those tenants are, even though they don't have trash cans, are still being billed. Each tenant is billed as a residential customer.
Correct.
So if there's we're just say a 50-unit complex, we're talking $33.50 per month. I think is what it is for the residential rate. I believe.
I'm not sure off the top of my head now. I don't want to lie.
Yeah, maybe around somewhere around about $30 to $35 after the last increase. I know we're paying $63.50 as a business.
As a commercial, yeah.
Right. So I'm just wondering, does that rate drop off? And that I'm wondering if they're going to take and reduce that rate, because to me it looks like if they go back in on a dumpster here,
Right.
which these people already have, then they're going to lose a crap load of revenue from those 50 residents that's been paying it.
Right.
They can't. I don't see how they can legally charge somebody, the resident, for the dumping, for each service,
Right.
and then the complex for the dumpster.
Right. Which I don't know if the complex is going to be mandated to purchase these dumpsters or not.
Well, I mean, if it's an optional thing, though, I mean, shouldn't
Right.
they be charged the same rate as everybody else, and then the 50 individual cans would come away? I mean, they're not using the cans anyway; they're using the dumpsters.
Right.
So, are they still going to be charged at $33.50 per month, or are they going to charge just a flat rate for the dumpster?
Right. Well, and you would think that the complex would be charged for the dumpster and then segregate that out to its customers. But if you know anything about government and kind of how they operate, a lot of times they're going to do it try to by the door, and because they're
Right.
going to tie it a lot of times to the utility bill, and so they're going to try to get that $33.50. For instance, I'll give you an example of something that's somewhat similar, but not exactly. In Carroll County, they have it set up to where if you have essentially an address where you have essentially any type of mailbox, or it's not just a farm, it's not a vacant farm, it's got a structure on it, and you have an address mailbox, they will charge you for a dumpster regardless if you ever use it. Okay.
Right.
And so they'll give you one, but regardless if they ever pick it up, you're charged that monthly fee for that dumpster.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, I think it's going to be similar here, where they're going to continue to charge that amount across them, and they're not going to charge anything different. Should that be something maybe the board looks at and says, hey, for these high density residential apartments or townhome, whatever it may be, if we're going to have a dumpster out here, we're going to give you 5 dumpsters, and we're going to charge you 5 dumpsters, and you, landowner, you be responsible for paying that, and you figure out how to segregate it out against your, raise your rent up $50 or whatever,
Right.
or $20, some way to go about that versus, like I said, charging all of them individually for a can
Right.
that they don't actually have.
Right. Yeah. That's where my concern would be there.
Right.
Yeah. That's just like us. We were paying a bill forever with never having a trash can.
Right.
So we actually had to request a trash can. That way, it's neither here nor there.
Right.
All right. Moving into the next thing was an ordinance amending the travel policy.
Right. and I don't really remember a whole lot on that one, to be honest with you. I know that the vehicles and the ones underneath that got pushed, and I'm not sure if that one got pushed with it or not. To be honest,
I don't remember seeing that either. So I
Yeah.
think that did get pushed. I think there was some discussion. I don't think anything ever took action. Now coming into this here, the vehicle take-home policy, the social media broadcast off the city's Facebook page, automated time cards, building security cameras, and speed bumps all got pushed.
Yep.
They all got tabled for another day.
Yeah. And just to clarify why that happened, Donna Ross was the one that brought these issues up. They got put on by the mayor. Obviously, he's the one that sets the agenda and stuff, but she was the one that requested it. And so, kind of out of abundance of caution to make sure that she could advocate for the reason why she asked for these, they decided to push it until she could be there. If I'm not mistaken, she was sick at that point.
Yeah, she had. I think she was battling the flu at the time.
Yeah. So just clarify why that happened. For
So that, she was the alderman who wanted this items on the agenda, and she wasn't there to represent them. So, best thing to do in that situation on the table. Yeah. All right, now we're going to move to the February 9th city meeting. All righty here. Discuss Hall Street utility cut insurance claim denial. Jeremy Capley. Do you remember anything about that? Because I know that's been pushed off quite a few times.
Yes, and I do not remember because I showed up just about 8 minutes
late. That's right,
yeah,
you were a little bit late.
I was a little bit late, and so I came in, I believe, when Justin Roach had kind of stepped up to discuss that. And so I did not see that one, and I don't have a recording.
Okay.
So it got pushed again. It sounds like.
It appears that this may have been pushed again. So we'll keep you guys updated as this comes along again. All right. The next item up here was discuss Lexington Utilities winter storm update.
Okay, so that was just where they wanted to kind of discuss what had happened with the storm. Largely, how many outages did we end up having and stuff like that. And that was both on LexNet and Lexington Electric. I believe it ended up being somewhere around 9,000 or 10,000 customers lost power. And then one of the kind of interesting figures that come out was, I believe, around 4,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little higher than that, lost Lexington internet service, which was kind of shocking to me because that was about half of our current take rate, and so I thought that was kind of a high amount, which some of that may have been. So just kind of reel back, they were unable to, at the time of the when the Lexington Electric was down, the actual electric service, to determine how many people had lost LexNet because they weren't able to
power.
Right, exactly. And so it took them a little bit of time to, once they got everything back running on the power side, to determine how many had lost the Lexington internet service. And so they come back, told us that, just kind of give us an update. And I don't believe at that time we got any kind of numbers on costs whatsoever. What we thought it was going to cost to repair all these lines, or what it was going to cost to repair the internet fiber service, which was something that I would have, as a board member, if I would have been on there, would have liked to have known. You kind of have an idea. Obviously, you're not going to be able to set in stone, hey, it was, $1.5 million. You were, only a couple of weeks post removed from this, if not even that, actually. And so, but just kind of have an idea of, hey, we had 50 breaks in the line. It cost us, about $50,000 or whatever to repair those, and whatever it cost to rehang the lines up. A lot of it was trees down. We ended up having a lot of trees fall from the ice, especially on the southern end of the county. And of course, obviously, Lexington Electric goes into Decatur County as well, and they got significantly more ice than we did. So the south and, like I said, east end of that system was the ones that were really impacted from it.
And also when you look at that there, you're right about knowing those numbers, because LexNet is such a new utility. Right. You've got to take and compensate for this. So this is the reason that there's reserves in every part of government for when we have natural disasters like this, so that they can take and get the service back up as fast as possible for the citizens. Right. But LexNet, I mean, we're now at the break even point, and I don't, as far as we're at the point where the take rate was getting us at a break-even point. Right. That doesn't mean all the bills are paid. The bills are still due. Because this was a massive expense up front, and then it's still an expense to operate it.
100%.
So yeah, I think knowing that information would be vital. Maybe I'll have that in for the next for the March utilities meeting.
Right. I think it does great to know that information so that you can plan ahead and kind of understand, hey, if we have another storm that's similar to this, what it cost us to bring this stuff back online.
Right. And the time sense, too. You got to take a look at how many people you've got doing service calls at this point.
Right.
In addition, if you're still out there doing connections, you may slow your connections down because now you've got your service techs that are actually having to do service work as opposed to new installs.
Right.
Which also slows the take rate down as well.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I get you. Lexington Utilities budget billing. Do you remember what that was about?
I do not, to be honest with you. I do not remember what the utilities budget billing was about, and I'm not sure if that has to do with their more automated software or they're changing over. When they just recently changed from one software system to another, and that's why a lot of customers had to create a new account and go stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's what that was in relation to or not. If I'm not mistaken, that was being talked about right as I kind of came in.
Okay, and that's something too that was. The billing software, I don't know how many times they've upgraded this stuff. I mean, it seems to happen quite often.
Right.
And another thing too that you have to understand. I mean, I know that there's been conversations about our bills being off here and there.
Right.
One of the things that you have to look at with that there, so people understand. We do not do any in-house billing.
No.
They use a third party to do all the billing.
Correct.
And that's, a lot of problems that exist there and people don't know. That's right.
It's significant cost.
And I'm going to tell you right now, it is a very significant cost. And I don't understand how we got away from doing it in-house to doing it outside. But I'm going to tell you because it's if I remember correctly, it's the data processing fee that you see on the budgets for each department.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit of money.
It is.
I mean, it's quite a bit of money. I don't understand how we've gotten to that point, but it is what it is.
Right. And I just kind of to go off that too, because it is not 100% what they discussed during that time, but the budget billing, billing for the utilities. Well, a lot of times, we keep talking about these. We're upgrading meters. We're going to these new electric meters where it disperses the information in real time, and you're supposed to be able to see what your usage rate is in real time and everything else. But then you hear them talk about when they bill it out. Well, we bill based on your last year's usage or something close to that, and we just approximate and everything. Because during this winter storm, for instance, there's quite a few posts on Facebook. Hey, I didn't have power for 6 or 10 days or whatever it was, but my bill shows $120 for these days. How am I getting billed for electricity? I didn't have electricity.
Right.
And that's what frustrates me a lot. It's like, well, if we're supposed to have real time information about this, why aren't we billing in real time? Why are we still going off the previous years? If we're still going off the previous year's usage and just taking a stab at it and guessing, you might as well just go and keep your old meters that you were reading by hand and go 3 or 4 months at a time and go out there and read it and kind of average it out over the months. And you know what I'm saying? Versus, like I said, you're just alleging essentially that you're doing real time, but you're billing off last year's usage amount.
Right.
That frustrates
and
me.
seeing if you go back in and you dig in a little bit further than that there, if you can take these smart meters
Right.
and you can see if somebody's got an excess usage, how hard would it be to bill from that there?
Right.
I mean, you would think that you should be able to tie that into any kind of billing software that you've got that's attached to this here. I'm assuming we had enough foresight to sit there and say, well, before we buy these meters, let's see what we can do to take and streamline our process
Right.
and save the citizens money
100%.
instead of just saying, let's just raise the rates because we don't want to take and do any work to figure out the best way to save.
Right, 100%. And on top of that, what I don't get, at least on this new gas billing that we're get right here. So there was a vote not too long ago about not raising the gas rates. Or the base pack essentially. We was going to do another $3.30 on top of what's the original $6.70. If I believe they call it a delivery fee on your bill. But now you look at your bill statement and it's like, whoa, this is like $60 or $50 or $100. It's just, and it's like, well, I thought this was a flat fee. What's it variable on now? Is it based on how much gas is actually being delivered, or do we have a set rate for it? And that's one thing, like I said, I've been trying to dig in, and I'm going to try to get some more information on it because I've had quite a few people ask me, you voted no, or the board voted no on this increase for this flat rate for the delivery, but now all of a sudden I'm getting this variable rate that seems to be tied somewhat to usage volume, and it's exponentially higher than this flat $6.70, $60, $100. I mean, and utility bills are high. I mean, there's a lot of people paying, $300, $400, $500 utility bills. Some even up to $1,000.
Yeah,
I've heard about, and they're like, I've never seen a bill this high in my entire life. And I'm like, my usage isn't just crazy high, in comparison to past years. What's going on here? And so I don't know if it has something to do with our new billing software where they've got something keyed in wrong. You know what I'm saying? To where it's not, hey, this is a flat fee. You don't need to be tied into any type of variable based on usage or what. But it seems like there's some type of error from what I can see.
And I think that's something that, thankfully the state has created a TDOR with their Department of Utility Regulations. At some point, it wouldn't hurt to have something like TDOR come down in here and see if we're being overcharged.
Right.
Because if the citizens are being overcharged, I mean, there's a serious issue there that needs to be corrected, and either refunds or credits established. Because I had a local politician, a government politician, called me the other day and was like, asking me, like, you pay attention to what's going on in the city? What in the hell's going on? My utility bill with a gas meter and water, no sewage, no trash pickup in the county, was $450. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Because my problem is, it's like you're saying, we got too many different lines on our utility bill for gas.
Right.
There should be, if you're going to have a flat rate, just to be connected to the fee, to the tap.
Right.
I get that. I'm fine with that there because we keep our gas on year round at the shop. Right. We run off natural gas heat. So I keep it on, so whenever I need it, it's there. It's available. And it's cheaper for me to keep it on than it is for me to disconnect at the end of the season and then have to pay a reconnect fee when we start back up.
Right.
So I keep it on. I'm fine if we got to pay a flat fee. And then charge me for, don't give me, well, I'm charging you this much here as a pass-through, and then I'm charging you this much here as my profit margin.
Right.
Or operational expense.
Right.
Give me one damn fee. Right. And go back in there, and if you wanted to, if you can take one line item and say, this is your gas price.
Right.
This is your meter, to be connected to your meter.
Right.
And then go back in there, if you want to take under that gas price, pass through your cost. This way I can go back in here and take a look at that bill and break it all down to say, all right, yeah, this is what I'm being charged.
Right.
Because from what I understand, we're charging more than what the going rate is under futures.
Right.
And that's insane. That means somebody's marking it up somewhere. Or either that or we're paying way too much money.
Right.
So that's something to look into.
I agree.
All righty. Well, let's move along here.
And just to add to that real quick, it does make you question some of this, either the billing software or these smart meters. They come in and pitch, you're going this is going to be better for you. We're going to increase your bottom line and stuff. How are they doing that? Is it through efficiency gain, or is it because we're getting some fudging in some numbers here about how we're billing you and what we're billing you for? And so that's why I kind of had some questions. You start seeing, this is real time information and stuff. We're billing you though based on last year's usage, and going back to nobody had power for 6 or 7 days, and all of a sudden I'm showing on here I've got $110 that I owe, because a lot of these people are on flex pay, where they have to pay essentially, they don't get like a monthly bill like a lot of people do.
Right.
They pay in real time essentially to keep their account in the positive. And so it's like, well, why do I owe $120 to keep my bill in the positive? I haven't had any electricity to pay for. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense at all. And so makes you kind of question what's going on there. Sorry, and we'll move on past that.
Well, no, and I kind of want to go back in there one more time. One last little thing I want to hit on that there is the what you were talking about with the we're billing on last year's rates.
Right.
Okay, so you had to collect data from last year.
Right.
So why are you sitting on the data for a year? I mean, to me, that there doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because if you're sitting on data from last year and that's what you're using to bill this now, you've got to be collecting the data from this year, so next year you can bill on this year's, on the previous year's data.
Right.
Why in the hell aren't you just charging us accurately?
Right.
And the thing is, if you're billing on last year, if you're going back in, are we billing on usage? You've got to be calculating usage at some point in time frame.
Right.
That's what just kills me here is if you're looking at this here, if you're collecting that data right now, bill on that data that you're collecting right now.
Right.
And be done with it.
Yeah.
This way here, it's fair across the board to everybody.
100%.
But anyway, all right, moving on here. The other thing was the utility board training. And I think I remember talking about this here, hearing about it. I'm going to let you, do you remember?
It's essentially just that they have to get a certain amount of hours of
yeah,
training.
and what it is, they had to do some upgrading in the policy from where they had before. It's just a language change, what I gathered from it. Okay, same thing. All right, we're going to move on from that one there and go to the next one. And I'm going to take a quick gander at some of our comments, because we're coming up into Monday's agenda. And now this was a long one.
This was a very long one.
Very long one.
Yes.
So, and again, if you really want to see these things here, you can go to our YouTube video, our YouTube channel that's at the top of the page, and take and go to the YouTube channel. And what I'm thinking about doing is changing up our cover page to actually have our YouTube channel up there with the link so you can look at it and see it.
Yeah. And the reason why we recommend going there, one, Facebook deletes the live after 30 days.
After 30 days.
Yeah, and we also go back in and take that. It's the same live video. There's nothing else that's been done to it other than we enhance the audio so that you can try
Well, and actually, with now that we've got the city's actually doing the audio system that they've got in there now. We're not even boosting audio anymore. It's just we straight download and go straight to YouTube with it.
So that was not true on the January meeting because Donna and her husband weren't there, so they didn't know how to hook up the mic system and the speakers. So just throwing that out there. So now, for the most part, as long as the mic system's good, yes, you can hear 10 times better in there. Yeah. But on that one, you may struggle to hear. So if you may want to go to the, like I said, YouTube side where it has been enhanced on that one.
And I'll say this here too. Donna Ross's husband Brent, he's the one that got the PA system and everything set up there. So thank you, Brent, for that. You've done a great service there to the citizens, so they can actually have access and hear. He actually moved the speakers back this time, and it allowed us to put our recording devices.
Our fancy phone.
Our cell phones in front of the whatchamacallit. I would like to do a laptop and what we do here or what we do at the shop for podcasts, but it requires a little bit more. But anyway, Brent has done that and has done a great job on getting us some audio. And when he moved those speakers back, listening to this last meeting was a whole lot easier.
Yes, it was.
So, thanks again, Brent, for doing that there. Yeah. Before we jump into the next one, I'm just going to take a look here. We got some comments coming along, so I'm going to see what we got here. Hey, Penny. Let's just go and address it. The one Roger lined up for the job, and she's talking about human resources is his stepdaughter. I think that's the relation there. Yeah. And she's right. Still a good old boy, still trying to put his whole family to work for the city.
Yes.
Getting paid highly.
Do need to go back one minute to that. I do remember now the budget billing was about. That was with regard to the paying employees during that 1 week that they were not there.
That's right.
What it was.
Yeah.
I knew I was forgetting something for a second, and this is a great one. Okay, so during that ice storm we had 1 week essentially where virtually nobody went to work for the city except for the Public Works Department. Most of those guys went in once again to clear streets and things like that. And
I will say I believe that
there were some utility workers as well.
Yeah, and I think LPD was doing the best that they could out there to service what they could operate in.
Right. Well, I mean more is the office administrative side that did not come in. And so what they ended up doing was there was 3 options that were proposed. We essentially pay everybody their normal salary. Everybody gets paid the normal salary. We pay normal salary to the people that did not come in, and we pay time and a half to the people that did not come in, that did come in. And then there was one third option. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. Pay everybody double or 1.5 times. It was something crazy. There was not an option where essentially, we do something that was more feasible in my mind. Just throw this out there. In private employment, a lot of times if you don't come into work because you're unable to make it, they'll suspend the write-up portion of it. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to hold it against you, but you're not going to get paid for it either. Essentially, if you work for somebody that paid you, you have a very great job. You can be very thankful for your employer to pay you because you didn't provide any or produce any value for the company at that point in time. And so these people got paid to essentially, sit at home, which in my mind could create an incentive to try to find ways to sit at home. You know what I'm saying? We try to find some type of hazard or safety issue and just, hey, we can't come in because of this, but I still need to get paid.
Right.
And so, how does that work out? And the other thing that I had questions about was, we paid these people time and a half for the ones that came in. A lot of these people worked more than their 40-hour week, right? Because, I mean, there was a lot to be done. Do we end up going time and a half on that as well? Because, under law, when you work over 40 hours and you're an hourly employee, not a salary, you have to get paid this 1.5 times rate. So we're going to do 1.5 times 1.5, or is it just you 1.5 flat and continue on? I'm not real sure how that ended up working out. I'm not sure we even came up with a final figure for how much that week cost us.
Right.
Or at least I haven't heard. So that was just what had happened there.
Yeah, and you're right. I forgot all about that too. I'm glad you remembered it.
Yeah.
Finishing up there with what Penny said. It's still a good old boy trying to put his whole family to work for the city. Sorry, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm right there with you, Penny.
Yeah.
Kudos for stepping up and being willing to say something.
And I will say this was one of the funniest votes too. I just go back on that one. So 6 of the 7 aldermen voted for that last option where we pay people their regular salary that did not come in. We pay people 1.5 times for the people that came in. Okay. The one that didn't vote for it was Roger Lofton. I was shocked. I didn't know that he couldn't vote to pay people for not working or pay people time and a half for doing what they're already in their job title to do. I was surprised. I didn't know if maybe he thought we should give them 2 times their rate and give it to everybody, or.
Well, I'm going to say this here. I'm wondering why he didn't make an announcement before he voted yes or no in this here.
Right.
Based on a conflict of interest,
right?
Which I think we're going to see something probably pop up in the March regular scheduled meeting,
right?
Based on an investigation that's ongoing at the moment,
right? And just to add to that, what he's talking about is if you have a conflict of interest, 1, you're supposed to declare it, and 2, you're supposed to normally abstain from voting, right? And so there's a difference between abstaining from voting and voting no. Voting no is you still vote for that item. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that is still that you voted in.
Right, and you still haven't declared.
Right.
Right.
So, like I said, I just want to point out that little bit of a distinction there.
Yeah, and you're right about that. There should have been a declaration.
Right.
All righty.
Grab this water.
Yeah, Penny. I mean, this. She lives in the county. Her gas bill she got was $177, highest bill ever in 40 years. Highest before that was 87. So you saw your bill doubled.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I agree with you. I'm hearing a lot of the same things here.
And look at your bill to see if you have that flat rate. Like I said, that's what's been kind of surprising to me is, once again, $6.70 was the flat rate. Remember, we were going to increase it to $10 with that $3.30 change. And you look on your bill and it's like, well, I don't see this flat rate on here anymore. It's a number that continuously changes. It's a variable based on what, like I said, and that's why I'm like, this is kind of odd. Something's not adding up here. It's like I said, I don't know if it's something in the billing software, something in how they have it calibrated or tied to. I'm not sure, but I'd like to try to find out some more information, kind of get to the bottom of it.
All right. Now, we've got one more, and this actually is kind of a question here for you. Woohoo, for Blake.
Yep.
All right, this is from Don Eubank. Don is running for county commissioner in District 2.
Right.
And what his question is, would Blake agree to partner with the commissioners to make sure we put in and he's talking about an audio system, so the citizens at home can hear the meeting clearly?
Oh, 100%.
And I had talked to Don. I think I'd seen a post that he had made, or maybe me and him had talked about it. But what
I'll donate now to it.
There you go, Don.
Yeah.
Blake's willing to donate now.
It's a shame, to be honest with you.
It really is.
Yeah.
And going on with what Don said, I will be challenging all possible commissioners to put their money where their mouth is and help pay for it, so the budget has no impact and the citizens get what they have been asking for. And I think that's a wonderful thing that he's willing to take and offer up his part of his salary that he's going to make
100%.
As a commissioner if he so wins this election. And I think that's a great idea. I mean, it really is. I mean, it just goes to show that the passion is to make sure that the citizens are actually they can hear what's going on.
Yes, and participate in it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I feel like you're unable to participate in it as a citizen if you can't hear what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a shame. Like I said, at the end of the day, they sit up there in front. This is a courtroom. They sit up there. Citizens are probably 15 feet from them at the closest, unless you're standing at the podium talking to them, and you can't hear it right there in the front row half the time. And so I do. I think it's a shame. Like I said, I'd be willing to donate now. Like I said, if you want to get together and do something like that, obviously I think we'd probably get some pushback from the current administration. I don't know if they necessarily want everybody to hear what's going on. But I'm more than willing. And like I said, if I happen to get elected, I mean, that's one of the first things that we're going to correct real fast. It's not that expensive. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I forgot do you remember what Brent said he spent? Because just those.
I think it's somewhere around about $1,000, maybe $1,200 for the total system.
Yeah, that's Donna campaigned on that, and she stood by her campaign promise and delivered exactly what she said.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so
she
kudos
did.
to Donna.
Yeah. And kudos again to Brent. I mean, because for getting in there, setting it up. I mean, that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
It really
Thank
is.
y'all very much for that.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it. I'm going to tell you. And before we get into the last city meeting, I want to capitalize on that there a little bit more.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you this here. This is the meeting that happened Monday night. 30 minutes into this meeting, I got up and left.
Yes.
And I'll just tell you the reason being.
Yep.
The very first item to be discussed was vehicles and the vehicle take-home policy. And once again, this thing got kicked. The can got kicked down the road. That's what I keep hearing this here from politicians in the city. Yeah. Well, we're going to kick the can down the road. Well, yeah, you know what? If you want to use that catchphrase, let's catch it.
Yeah.
You kick the can down the road. You still ain't addressed this here. No. And you put it back on to get the information from department heads. Yeah. Bottom line is the people elected you to address this issue. This was one of the hot topics during the election season.
Yes.
And campaign promises were made, and campaign promises are still not being met.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this here, and I'm going to throw somebody under the bus. I'm not going to call their name, but they know who I'm talking about. When I got up and left, before I left, Candy started recording. And she was streaming live, so there was no gap in our meeting. You could watch the end of mine, and if you go on our YouTube channel, there's part 1 of this meeting is me recording it. Part 2 is Candy's recording.
Yes.
Now, let me let you know this right now. I got a message, upset, saying that Candy doesn't know what she's doing. And come to find out, the person who sent this message to me has her blocked so they can't see her video. It ain't a damn thing to do with Candy. It's about the fact that this fool is attacking one of the admins on this page. And I'm going to tell you right now, and my response was I got upset about it.
Yes.
Pick your butt up off the couch and carry your butt to the meeting if you think it's that important.
Right.
We are volunteers. We don't get paid a single thing. This page makes no money. Right. We do this because we're trying to help the citizens understand what's going on in their county.
100%.
And, you know, and in this organization, there's no leadership. Yeah. We are equals. We talk about stuff. If there's things that we've got issues with, we address it together. But in a sense, I mean, most people kind of point to me towards being the leader of this group, if you want to call it that. Right. Fine. We'll accept that there. That's the case. You got an issue, come to me. Yeah. Leave the admin alone.
Right. You were the founder and principal of it. I mean, you're the ones that got the legs underneath this and built it to what it is today. I mean, and we all appreciate that very much.
But you know what, though? The only reason this page is successful, and people don't realize it, we average about 175,000 people per week coming across this page.
Right.
I'm just gonna say this here. The taxpayers page is one of many other pages like this across the state where people are paying attention.
Yes.
And yet, have we spurred some? Sure. Were others kind of important to our way of looking at things? Sure. I mean, and I talk with some of these other pages. Right. They're trying to do the best thing for the citizens. Yeah. These are because they're like-minded citizens. Yeah. And that's what's going on here. But yeah, if you got a problem with an admin, come see me. You know what? Don't go after the admin because these people are doing their best and they're volunteers. They're giving up their time freely. Right. And we spend a lot of time doing this. Yes. I spend more time doing this here than I actually do my regular job. Yep. I mean, it's just the truth of the matter. But you know, I don't need no pat on the back. That's not the reason I do it. I do this here because this is my community. This is where I live. It doesn't matter if I'm from here originally. Right. That has no bearing. This is my property. Right. If you don't want me to be here, then come buy my property, buy me property somewhere else, right, and pay me a good chunk of money, and I'll leave. Right. I mean, that's.
But you're passionate about helping people and the citizens that are here, and so, like I said, we appreciate everything you've done because you've highlighted things that seem to go overlooked, unnoticed, or just completely swept under the rug a lot of times. And I'm not talking about just from politicians. I'm talking about even from the newspaper standpoint. The people that really should, try to take more action and to bring these things to light to people. So, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that there. And like I said, this is my home. I was raised to stand for what I believe is right, and that's my parents are raised me to be what it is. Okay, we're 45 minutes in. We got to roll to the next one.
Oh.
All right, we're gonna
roll to the long one.
yeah, we're gonna jump off the. Wow, I do want to hit this one here.
Yeah.
72-year-old lady. Looks like a 72-year-old couple. I'm going to say $470 gas and water bill.
Wow.
And they're conservative on their usage.
Right.
Wow. You know, you're right. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go in here. Let's start because we got, man, this is taking longer than I thought. So we're going to just jump through here. Okay. City meeting February 23rd. This was Monday.
Yeah.
Okay. Discuss vehicles and discuss vehicle take-home policy. We already went over that there. That got kicked. The can got kicked down the road. They've tabled this until the next meeting.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Complete disaster and joke. There's already supposed to have been an asset list that was turned over to the board, right, for all these departments to outline and how many different trucks and everything they got. You ask a department head, for instance, the Public Works Department. First it was 6. Well, then they got to talking, and then they come back to them. Well, how many do you have? Who's taking them all home? Well, it was 6, and then I got this one person, and then these 3 people, and then there's one. And so it was like, one man, and now you have 10, 11, 12. I mean, how many do you really have? Do you even know? I mean, is it that many that you lost track? And so I'll just end it on that. It blows my mind. At the end of the day, your accounting should understand how many you have. That's all the reporting requirements for accounting. It should be real easy to develop that list and say, here's what we have. Here's a vehicle number for that, VIN number, or technically you're supposed to or required to, once again, put in a number on that vehicle that outlines it. And we haven't done any of that. Don't know what it is.
And you're right. And that's one of the reasons I got up. I'm like, you know, after hearing all that stuff, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear any more because it's like it is.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you hear some, it sounds like a hissing or anything, I got a metal roof and it is raining. So, you know, we're going to have some background noise. Ain't much I can do about that.
Right.
All right. Going to the next thing, automated time cards and building security cameras. Now, I know you were there for this here. And I think what I've talked to find out about this here is the automated time cards. What it is right now, time cards are handwritten.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to an automated time card where it's not, you're not punching a time clock or any of that stuff there. Because then, hey man, yeah, I work from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday this week here, and then I put in 2 hours of overtime on Saturday. So that's my hours.
Right.
All right, and they turn that in, and that's what they get paid on.
Yeah.
There's no tracking of it whatsoever. None whatsoever.
None.
Apparently, LPD is already doing an automated time card system.
Yeah, of some sort. Yeah.
And they're tying it back to the individual cell phones, which is an IP address, which can only be linked to that individual, which keeps anybody from going in here and saying, "Hey, man, I'm going to play hooky today. Clock me in."
Right. Well, and I believe the way I understood that, at least, and I could be wrong on this, that it wasn't necessarily the IP address to the individual. It was that you had to clock in on the IP address for that Wi-Fi system. So once you got into the building or in with proximity to that, you could then log in. So it was essentially kind of a geofencing.
Right. You have to be close to the time clock to be able to log in.
Right.
Right.
And so what they were talking about was something similar or utilizing that software. And so what I recommended, because I sent this to a few board members, QuickBooks has something called QuickTime or whatever. It's kind of similar, but it has different features as well. So it has geofencing, which is a little different than the IP address, where you can actually draw an outline around a certain building or wherever it may be and say, hey, you can't clock in until you're within the boundaries of this. Once you're within the boundaries, because it does it off of GPS location, you can clock in. But it also does geo-tracking. And so what you can utilize with that is you can trace people where they've been. So you're going to find out if you have employees that are riding the clock somewhere, just hanging out with buddies playing pool, or if they're just hanging out at the shop department, not doing nothing, not actually working on anything, because that's not what they do. They're just kicking it with a friend. Or you can also utilize it to gain data to, once again, drive real-time decision making. You want to see how long it takes you, for instance, on average, to repair a leaking water line. Well, you can, with that geo-tracking feature, determine how long when they arrived, how long it took them to repair it, because you know when they left. And so over time, you with all this data, you can develop an average and say, hey, on average, it takes us 35 minutes to repair a leaking water line. Right. And from there, if you add in more details to it, hey, maybe it's different for a 1-inch line versus a 6-inch line, you know, and you'll have that information. You can also use it for jobs, tracking jobs. You can assign jobs on there on this. Or if you have an emergency, right, and you know where it's at on there, you can pull it up and see where your people are in real time and say, hey, you're closest in proximity to this, and you call that person, hey, I need you to go repair this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's a very valuable. It costs money, it does, but you can also, like I said, root out some of the nefarious actors.
Right. Well, it seems to me it makes it more streamlined and efficient.
100%.
As far as doing operations.
Yes.
And then you can go back and you can track to that. And like you're saying, you can get the bad actors out. You know, you can point them out, but you can also come in here and use this here to take and maximize time, which is the end. At the end of the day, that's what you really have to worry about is time.
Right.
So if you maximize your time, you're actually able to push this stuff here for
efficiency.
Yeah. And it provides a better service.
100%.
And you know, you start saving some money here. So you know, when you're looking at budget time, you actually save some money on this.
Right. Well, and not only from an efficiency standpoint, but an effective standpoint. You can make sure that people, like I said, aren't just riding the clock somewhere and kind of hanging out, chilling around, and doing things like that. If you know on average it takes you 35 minutes to fix a 1-inch water line or whatever, and there's a 1-inch water line that needs repaired, and all of a sudden they've been out there for 4 hours. Hey guys, what are we doing here? You know, is there something that's driving this? Is there another issue that we've encountered, or are y'all just hanging out talking and not actually working? And so, like I said, you can use it once again to ensure that there is productivity and value production. Right. And so that's why I'm real big on.
Okay, and I'm gonna bounce back because I actually had I had a text message come across. And this goes back to vehicle usage, but also when you're looking at this thing here from an automated time card situation, they can take, they can use VIN, they can use the VIN on a vehicle for data tracking as well. Mileage at fuel time, you know, when they're checking in and out of service. So, you know, we can also not just the employee per se, but we can track the vehicle. And again, you know, and that makes a lot of sense.
My thought with that, with the tracking, if we're going to put a satellite tag on that stuff's expensive and stuff like that for a decent one or whatever. But if you're already tracking them on, how many people do you know that go around without their phone? Especially when they also have an app a lot of times to see where their maps are or to do any type of project, you know what I'm saying, information. Right. You got your phone, you use it for so many different things, and it's with you. I mean, I don't know how many people, you know, if you go 1 mile down the road and find out you don't have your phone, oh man, I got to turn around and go grab it real quick. I forgot my phone.
Right. But, well, you know, this here also goes back into playing in a part with, by using the VINs, which I mean, the VIN, as far as if I remember correctly, when you look at a VIN up in the dash, it's a UPC code. Yeah. So if you actually are scanning that UPC code, you're actually now not looking at just worker efficiency, but we can look at vehicle efficiency as well. Right. You know, and then, you know, you can use this. It's just another collection point of data that can help with maximizing time. Right. I appreciate that text coming in. All righty, let's get back in here to speed bumps. I know this was addressed.
Speed bumps or speed humps or speed cushion. That's what it was. I'm just messing. They try to throw out different terms, but it was around. Once again, the emergency routes was one of the main concerns. It sounds like, right. And also, you know, when they had previously, when Donna got on the board, one of the things was she wanted to have a way to have them removed or to advocate for them. That wasn't just, hey, one person on the street said we need speed bumps, so we threw in speed bumps. Right. It was, hey, you needed to have. I'm not sure 100% if it was 60% or 2/3 of the people that lived on that street or were serviced by that street. And so that's where it got real confusing. They were talking, one of the main ones was Old Huntington, because it branches off to at least 3 subdivisions. And I believe what they were talking about is Blackberry Hill, Cardinal Estates, and Beasley subdivision. But if you go to, once again, the entry to Beasley subdivision on Pinecone, go right across the road. Well, there's like 15 or 20 houses right there in this little small subdivision. Yeah. You know, there's also, if you go down to the end.
But I don't think there's any politicians in that subdivision.
Right. So they got overlooked maybe a little bit. Or even down to Crazy Doe Road, there's other subdivisions right there. And, you know, if you're coming from the hospital, one of the fastest ways to get to them is once again jump right over to Old Huntington Road and run down,
Right.
versus once again trying to get all the way out to 22 North, run up 22 North, and then cut over on one of these side streets into these other neighborhoods. And so Donna brought it up. How are we going to do this? They've had people that have picked up petitions and have been trying to go around, but they don't really know who do they all have to get the information from.
Right.
You know what to get this 60.
Yeah, I mean, are we looking at the 5,000 block between 5,000 and 5999 addresses? Yeah. There's no definition,
Right.
other than the fact that you got to have, and I think it was 2/3 because I remember 67%.
Right.
You got to have 67% of the people sign off on it.
Right.
Okay. Well,
How
I
do we
mean, are you
determine
going
that?
up from Old Huntington down there when it meets up with 412, all the way up to Crazy Doe, or you have to. There has to be some more definition in there to relax.
Right. And what I think they may want to possibly look at too is saying that 2/3 or hey, 40 people or 50 people or something like that, so that there is a, if you have a large conglomerate like this and they're say like we determined there's 400 houses on there or whatever, that's hard to get around to all these people and find them
Right.
during some time where they want to come out and sign all this stuff.
Right.
So I know one of the things was, well, let's create an email, or let's see if we can do a broadcast on a Facebook page, or what's going to be the best way to get in contact. That's one thing
Right.
Chip Clark said. We're in the modern age. People walking around with the sign-in sheet, essentially trying to get you to sign for this petition. And I agree. We are in a more modern time. Could we use a poll? Could we use something? But then you still got to go and verify that this person lives there. Which, hey, if you rent, you're not on the property database. Can you look at their utility bill then and see? It depends. Some people put it in their name. Sometimes the person that owns the home maintains it, and you just pay them directly for it. And so I don't know, like I said, what's the easiest way. That's why I said there maybe need to be another relief valve where you do a set amount, 40 or 50 signatures, and that could at least bring it up for discussion. And then at the end of the day, you put an advertisement out there to these people, send them something in the mail for everybody off this road. Hey, we're gonna have a meeting about this. If you want to come and voice your opinion, come to it.
Right.
But that way it's not, like I said, a never-ending thing where who determines it? That was the other thing. Who's supposed to determine the amount of people that's serviced by it? Does the Public Works Department? Does the Lexington Electric? Does the board try to make this count and figure out, is it 100 people or 200 people? And so now we got to get 2/3 of that. I don't
Right.
know. And that was what the discussion was about.
That's
The main thing though that Donna brought up, and she is 100% valid. The policy when these were put into place was if it was a 40-mile-per-hour road or higher, you couldn't put them in, or a designated emergency route, you couldn't put them in. So that's why Old Huntington went from 40 to 30 miles an hour. Right? They changed the
speed limit just to adapt to keep the speed humps in there, cushions, whatever the hell they are.
Right. But that was just one of the caveats, one of the
Right.
conditions. The other one was this emergency route, but it doesn't sound like anybody really knows what the emergency routes were or are. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what the discussion was about. And it kind of went back and forth on. From once the other one was Eastern Shores Drive. There's really only one entrance into Eastern Shores subdivision besides the dirt road between Eastern Shores and Beasley. And so, is that emergency route? If you got to get back to the backside and you got to get through there fast, you can't do it because there's so many speed bumps.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, and those out there and
Or rough.
are rough, real rough. Yeah, they're not like the speed cushions.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a friend of mine from England. She messaged me after we brought up about the speed bumps and the speed humps, because I shared a picture of a sign that said speed humps, and she's like, "What the hell are you Americans doing over there?" I'm like,
Right.
"Hey."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and by state law, it's supposed to be to where these bumps, cushions, humps, whatever you want to call them, you're supposed to be able to hit them at the designated speed limit so as not to slow someone down.
Right.
And so a lot of these, I don't believe, comply with that, especially when you look at it from an emergency vehicle standpoint. Most of these vehicles are very heavy. Ambulance, very heavy.
Fire trucks,
very
yeah.
heavy. What kind of damage or maintenance issues does that cause to these vehicles?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, if you end up starting to fracture, any of your control arms or anything like that on these vehicles, not necessarily the easiest thing to see, but if you're going out to another one, you hit it again and blow it out. What happens then? You know what I'm saying? And so that was the main concern, is we want to make sure our first responders in the event of emergency can get somewhere fast. At the same time, we do have people that speed through these neighborhoods.
Sure. Well, I'm tell you what, there was a wreck. I think it's White Street. It's by the that runs off Old Huntington back up to the high school by the tennis courts?
Yes.
There was a wreck there the other night. And the speed bumps didn't impede that wreck, hit a light pole.
Right.
You know, I mean, they were probably 20, I don't know, maybe 20 yards from the speed bump to the light pole where the impact hit. Okay, you know, my question is, if somebody's speeding through there, does the speed bump, when you hit the speed bump when you're speeding, does that make you lose control and jump you into the light pole?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know all the information on that wreck. I'm just, you know, I knew about it. I looked at the light pole the other day. It didn't break in half, so the impact couldn't have been so bad.
Right.
But, I mean, it was bad enough to take and crack the pole itself.
Right.
But not fold it in or break it or anything.
Right.
Okay. Let's see here. All right. Planning Commission appointment. Expiring term was Mark Ward. I know Jason Bates got appointed to the Planning Commission.
Yes.
Now, Jason was on the Board of Zoning Appeals, so he gave up his seat on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and Eddie Bray was appointed to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yes.
So that's what happened in that one there. Ordinance of Lexington, Tennessee, to amend definitions of nursery and nursery school as to allow child care, family home, also child care homes as per TCA.
Yes, I was about to say that was because of a Tennessee law that was updated,
Right.
and so they just wanted to comply with that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Pate from Southwest Tennessee Development District was one of the ones that kind of brought that forward to them, that they need to be in compliance. Essentially, what it allows is in essentially a residential home that you're allowed to do a limited service child care.
Right.
They still have to comply with some like parking, more or less when people come pick up and release
Right.
children to where they don't impede traffic and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it was a pretty short topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. This was the second reading of an ordinance setting the dumpster rates. Was dumpster rates discussed at this meeting that time?
Yeah, I say yes, it was, but I don't remember what the exact value was for the dumpsters. But it was the second reading of it. I said they talked about it at that one meeting,
Yeah, back in January,
meeting.
yeah.
Yes, and so they brought it back up again
For the
for the second reading to pass that. And I don't remember what it was off the top of my head.
I'll try to get that information
Yeah.
so we can bring it up on the next time.
Let me see if I took a note on that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, while Blake's checking his notes, we've been at this at an hour and 3 minutes right
Told
now.
you.
So
Told
what
you
we're
we
going to
were
do
like
is
30
we're going to end this podcast now. This isn't going quite the way I was hoping to. And we're going to go ahead because we're actually talking as we're going along in these things here.
Right.
We're going to take about a 10-minute break here, and then we're going to come back on for another edition. So stick around. We are going to end this edition of the Hidden Agenda and start a new one here in about 10 minutes. So just stick around. We'll be back.